Well, good morning. Welcome. So glad that you could be here at Riverside, and excited if you're here in the room or online joining us for part 6 of our series here, Deeply Rooted. I love what Pastor Trey said. This is Jesus in his own words as we look at his teachings on the Sermon on the Mount. And been looking forward to sharing this with you this week, preparing for it. Also, this last week, preparing my teeth, going to the dentist. How many of you love going to the dentist? It's like, hey, there's a couple of you. Didn't expect that, but hey. I really don't like going to the dentist, but I will say I'm very happy with my dentist. And we talk about the dentist, but the hygienist is the big key, and the person that comes in and really does all the cleaning work and stuff like that. And Emily, who's been my hygienist now for about a year, does a great job. And but she kind of surprised me this last week as I laid down in the chair, got comfortable, got the headrest back up to my height, and then she had the tool in her hand. I assumed the position, opened my mouth out up real wide, and she said, "You're a pastor, aren't you?" This is exactly how it happened. And I said, "Uh-huh." And she said, "Can I ask you a question?" Not started anything. I said, "Okay." And she asked me what, I thought it was going to be one of these really hard questions, but it was a good question, and we had a good discussion, which, she was able to make out everything I said, which, was a miracle in itself. But Emily does a great job in case she's watching, because I gave her information on our church. And but I think about the dentist, and the dentist is not always fun, but it's absolutely necessary. And so is what we get to talk about today. It's not always fun, but it's absolutely necessary. So today's message is Next Level Purity. And we're going to be talking about purity with regard to lust and adultery, the things that Jesus talked about. And the interesting thing is about purity, just in general, that word. In our world, in our culture, purity is actually valued in many different ways. And I was thinking about the different things, our air has not been super pure probably in the last 3 weeks, if anybody has allergies, right? You come to value purity when you think about air. Hygiene, especially with our hands, over the last few years, we've learned the value of purity. We can all resonate with that. We think about if you go and you buy jewelry, if you're looking at diamonds, one of the ways diamonds are graded is on clarity. Clarity and purity. How pure is this diamond? The more pure it is, the more valuable. And then, of course, water. Right? If you go and you look in, if you stop at a Sheetz here in Pittsburgh and go in and buy a bottle of water, man, the more pure, the more expensive, right? And you look at all the things, and this is purified water. That's the name of this bottle of water. What would be interesting is, could you imagine going in and looking through the different bottles of water, or asking somebody for a bottle of water and they hand you something like this? And they say, "Hey, here you go. Enjoy." Well, I don't want that. Well, it doesn't matter. It's water. Oh, it matters. It matters what I put into this from the yard out there. It matters. It's so interesting that in our culture, in everyday life, purity matters, except now our culture says, you know where it doesn't matter? Is your relationships, is your sexuality, that just doesn't matter. You can choose. You can choose how pure you want it, and that's just fine. But what Jesus tells us is that's just not true. Our relationships And with regard to specifically lust, he shares next level purity. That's what he's talking to us about. Culture says whatever you feel and whatever you want is good, and Jesus is saying, actually, there's parameters here, and they're there for a reason. Let's take a look. Matthew chapter 5, verses 27 through 30. It says, "You have heard the commandment that says you must not commit adultery. But I say, anyone who even looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. So if your eye, even your good eye, causes you to lust, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your hand, even your stronger hand, causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell." All right, on that note, let's pray. Actually, let's pray. Jesus, we love you and we thank you, God, for your words which are true for all time. And Lord, you want to speak truth into our hearts, into our lives, because you love us. You love us deeply. Jesus, you went to the cross for us, for our sins, and you want us to walk a life of freedom. And you care about that. And so that's what these words are about. Lord, may my words deliver that same desire from you, and let them be received that way. In Jesus' name, amen. So, couple things. Last week, if you missed, and I encourage you to go back and watch our messages online, what Jesus just talked about was murder. He started out, you've heard it said, you should not murder. But I say to you, and so he's continuing in this theme. He's saying, you've heard this commandment, you must not commit adultery, but this is what I say. What is Jesus doing in the Sermon on the Mount? What he's doing, remember, Jesus isn't replacing the law, he's completing it. He is completing the law. And I want to unpack that a little bit because at that time, in Jesus' time, religious leaders were guilty of incomplete application. Incomplete application of the law. The law, at least for Jewish listeners, was well known, well understood, but the religious leaders had really focused on a lot of legalism, a lot of outward stuff. Now, for Greek listeners that were hearing this for the first time, that is, you may have heard the term Gentile, the common belief was that lust was acceptable and even good. So, Jesus is talking to both audiences. He's saying to the Jewish audience, hey, incomplete application, and to his Greek listeners, there's a really, really dangerous mindset that I need to correct. Here today, whether you're in person or online, you come maybe from a background where you have heard the Ten Commandments. You've heard teachings on adultery. But maybe the outward focus, you've been missing some of the point. Maybe you're here and you come from a background where you're just starting to find out about Jesus. You're finding out what it means to be a follower of Jesus. And a lot of this is new to you. Either way, remember, Jesus is giving truth. He's sharing truth. And a lot of times in our culture, a broad stroke is applied to Christianity, that it's a bunch of do's and don'ts. Actually, that's not true. Christianity is not about doing, it's about what's been done for us on the cross and the life and the freedom that he offers when we follow him and we trust in him. That's what he offers to us. And so, as he shares these teachings, He's sharing teachings with the desire that we would walk in freedom. That we would walk in freedom in our relationships and our sexuality. So, what Jesus does in this teaching, in these 4 verses, he's actually combining 2 commandments into one. I want to show you what this looks like because he's taking purity to the next level. Purity was considered just the 7th commandment, but when you look at what he said and you look at these 2 commandments, let's look at them. Exodus chapter 20, verses 14 and verses 17. All right? You must not commit adultery. Now look at 17. It says, you must not covet your neighbor's house. You must not covet your neighbor's wife, male or female servant, ox or donkey, or anything else that belongs to your neighbor. Jesus here is challenging faulty ethics. That's what was happening. It's happening still today. He's challenging faulty ethics and incomplete practice. What does this look like? Jesus is about fulfilling the law perfectly. This is what it looks like. 3 things that he was doing. He was challenging these mindsets. First, he's saying these two commandments have equal importance. At that time, what was happening was there was a big focus on adultery because that was enforceable by religious leaders who had power. So what they wanted to do was, and we have an example of this in the book of John, a woman who was caught in adultery. There were laws about this, catching people doing wrong. That's what was happening. And Jesus is saying, that's not what this is about. That's not what I'm about. Also, it's not one or the other. There was selective application of the law. And Jesus knew this, and Jesus came to fulfill it and complete it. Today, I think there's a struggle in our society, in our culture. We can agree on these things over here. This is really, really bad. In fact, last week, and Bridget did a great job talking about, there's murder. We could all agree murder's terrible. But man, when we're talking about our words, tearing people down and their character with our words, we can do that on Facebook. That's okay. Some people deserve it. What I'm saying is there's that selectivity that's in our culture. You get to pick and choose. Jesus is challenging this, and we should be challenging ourselves. Are we being selective in purity? And what we look at in our relationships, are we being selective? Also, Jesus is completing the law by saying it is inside and out. Purity is inside and out. This is a big focus for Jesus. Jesus is saying it's not just about outward behavior, it actually starts here in your mind and your heart. This is what's important. This is what God is most concerned with, your heart, your mind, what you're allowing into your mind. We know this to be a focus of Jesus because later Jesus challenges and rebukes religious leaders, and he calls them something. He calls them whitewashed tombs. He's saying on the outside you look really nice, but on the inside you're dead. So Jesus is saying what I've come to bring is an equal importance. Also, I am concerned with inside and out. And then the last thing is he's saying no substitutes. You see, adultery, the external piece, behavior piece, he's saying what was happening, and especially in the Greek culture, was, we won't do adultery, but we can substitute it with lust. It's okay. And Jesus is saying no. Next level purity. This is what I'm calling you to. Why? Because I love you and I want what's best for you, and I know the carnage and the unintended and difficult and destructive consequences that come on the other side of it. something that if you're watching entertainment of any level, it's hard to watch movies or shows without a lot of this stuff in it. And it's sensationalized, and there's not a lot of like, hey, this is what happens afterwards. So, this is what Jesus is bringing to the table. This is what Jesus is talking about, next level purity. And Jesus uses a device, a literary device, to get people's attention. I want to go back and I want to read the last couple verses here. It says, so if your eye, even your good eye, causes you to lust, gouge it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your hand, even your stronger hand, causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one part of your body than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. What did he just say? What is going on? Jesus is getting people's attention. This is a hyperbole. Okay? A hyperbole is a type of figurative language characterized by extreme exaggeration. We use hyperboles all the time. This thing weighs a ton. Does it? No. Right? Man, I hear this from my kids sometimes. I'm starving to death. Really? You just ate 2 hours ago. I doubt it. Okay? He's as old as dirt. Don't look at anybody next to you. Okay? We hear things like this, and they get our attention. It's a way for us to emphasize our point. Jesus is emphasizing a point. What is his point? By any means necessary, protect your purity. By any means necessary, protect your purity. Jesus, at the beginning of this series, we talked about the Beatitudes. Blessed are the pure. Blessed are the pure in heart. Jesus is calling us to a next level purity, and he's saying, by any means necessary, protect your purity. What means are you using to protect your purity? What means are you doing that? And this has a lot of layers to it. It is marriage. It is future marriage. It is your mind, your eyes, what you look at. We live in a digital world where there's all kinds of stuff that the world, and let's just say it, your enemy, the devil, is sending your way because he's out on a mission to steal, kill, and destroy. It is about parents protecting kids. There's a lot of layers to this, but Jesus' point is very clear, by any means necessary. So, what does this look like for us? I want to just talk through about 5 things that I think are really good strategies for protecting your purity. This next level purity, Jesus is calling us to it. How do we do this? This is a big, this is just big on my heart. Like, if we have applicable, practical strategies and biblical ones, I believe it's possible to protect purity. But we have to be serious, as serious as Jesus is. So, here we go. Are you ready? Yes. All right. You still with me? Yes. All right. So, protecting your purity. First, think like pray. Think like pray. Now, this was something on my heart during the week and God really just dropped this idea in my head. In Scripture, we are described as more than conquerors. In the book of Romans, we are to be strong and courageous. We are to put on the full armor of God. All that being said, in 1 Peter, we were reminded that the devil prowls around like a lion, ready to devour. And as I was thinking about this scripture and how it connects to here, I was thinking of hunting, because why not? And it was interesting walking around in a property that I hunt with the landowner, and we were walking around, and we were thinking, like, where would be the places that the deer will want to go? Yeah, I know. It's all right. I know some of you look at deer and you're like, oh, they're so cute. Better my bullet than your bumper. That's what I always tell people, okay? And we eat all that we harvest, okay? So just hang with me, all right? But we think this way. We walk through the property and we're like, hey, where would they want to be? Where would they want to go? And where would we want to set up? I say all that because your enemy knows where you're most vulnerable. He's hunting you. Now, full armor of God? Absolutely. And as followers of Christ, we have weapons. We have the Word of God. We have this community. We have many weapons to fight him. But I want to encourage you to think like pray. And this is how you do it. When you are angry, when you are tired, when you are alone, when you are depressed, these are the times when you are most vulnerable. That's when your enemy is hunting you. Almost to a T, this is where it begins. Whether it's behind a screen, whether it's on your phone, whether it's in a relationship, a workplace relationship, an old friend, connecting on Facebook, it is in these emotions and in these times that you are vulnerable. That's when the enemy comes for you. Just an experience of talking with people who have been on the other side of this kind of carnage. That's where it's happened. That's where it starts. So, think like pray. Think like someone who you know the enemy is out for you. When you find yourself in those spots, you know, I am vulnerable. I need to talk to somebody. I need to reach out to somebody and say, right now, I am really alone and I'm really down. Will you pray with me? Will you get together with me? When you are angry, how do you deal with that anger? Will you sit down, have a strategy, a spiritual habit, listening to worship music, praying, talking to God, having time in the Word, that you would think like pray. These are the times where I continue to stumble in purity. Think like pray. Number 2, make a covenant with your eyes. Make a covenant with your eyes. You have to do all that you can to protect your mind and your heart. And the gateway, many times, is our eyes. And yes, I'm speaking to men mainly, but there is a whole new generation, and we're finding now it's not just men. So I'm speaking to everybody. Right now, many of you are carrying around, and think about this, 25 years ago, the idea that you could just carry around a computer in your pocket that can access data and pictures and anything else at any time of the day. Like that. Like that. So, listen to this. Americans spent approximately 170 billion minutes of streaming per year last year. The average, and this is on your phone or on your television, average is 3 hours per day per person of content, usually through Netflix, Amazon Prime, 3/4 of homes have at least one streaming services. Many have more than that, where you can deliver anything at any moment. Listen, make a covenant with your eyes. Make a covenant with your eyes about what you are going to allow your eyes to see. Number 3, establish guardrails for your marriage and your future marriage. This, again, goes back to by any means necessary. This is about taking extreme measures. This is about doing things that, listen, if you take some guardrails, you establish these guardrails, and you tell people about these guardrails, they might be like, what do you do? You do what? You won't do what? Billy Graham, who was a Christian leader with unprecedented influence in the 20th century. The number of people who came to know Jesus through Billy Graham is just, it's hard to count. And he knew his influence, and he knew that the enemy would do anything to destroy the calling on his life. So he had extreme measures. He would not ride in a elevator with another woman by himself. He would not do it. He had many other measures. I think about just the measures, and my wife and I have talked about these different things that we do to make sure nothing would find its way in. It's really important that you have guardrails. Guardrails. I remember one time I was at a conference or something, and I was by myself, and I went down, and it had been kind of a long day, and I knew that there was a swimming pool and a hot tub, and I went down there, and there was only one other person in the whole place, and it was a young woman who was sitting in the hot tub. So I went in there, and I didn't want to go swimming, so I went and I sat in one of those, really uncomfortable, plastic chairs, and I sat there, not looking at her, in my clothes, with my towel, for about 20 minutes until she left. And then I went and I got in the hot tub. And for a moment, I was like, she probably thought that was really weird. But my wife didn't. Do all that you can to establish guardrails. These are the things that will protect your marriage or your future marriage. Young adults, students, do all that you can to protect your marriage or future marriage. When I think about this, I think about even conversations that I've had in counseling, premarital counseling. This was many years ago. This was the first 5 years of my ministry. I was doing premarital counseling with a couple, and the man was a financial advisor. And his fiance said to me in one of our sessions, I have some concerns about his work. I said, what are you talking about? Well, he seems to think it's okay to, in his workplace and in work conversations as an advisor, to flirt with ladies in the business context because it helps his business. I turned to him and I said, that's a problem. I was like, you cannot do that. There's no good ending on the other side of that strategy for your marriage. If you care about her, you have to stop. And maybe you're here today and there's something you're doing that you have rationalized, because that's what had happened. The enemy wants you to rationalize a behavior that says, it's okay. It's okay. Until it's not okay. And then you're in pain. And you're in regret, and you're in shame. Establish guardrails for your marriage. Here in Pennsylvania, especially here in Pittsburgh, there's a lot of places where you drive around. If there weren't guardrails, you would be scared to death to drive, right? Think about that as you're driving, and think about, because that's what we're driving through every day now in this culture. You're driving through dangerous roads all the time. It's up to you to put up guardrails for you your spouse, your future spouse, your kids that are like, okay, I'm making sure nobody's going over the edge. All right, 2 more. Number 4, don't believe the lies. The enemy, as I said, okay, Jesus let us know this. The devil is a liar. And the thing that he uses to get us into difficulty in our relationships and with regard to purity is lies that he gets us to believe. And our culture is feeding us these lies. Here are the 3 big ones. Number 1, it's no big deal. Our culture would like us to think it's no big deal. If you're looking at that, it's no big deal for that relationship to be a really close friendship with someone that's married. It's no big deal. Here's another one. Just this one time. Just this one time. Won't hurt anybody. Just this one time. Rarely ever is it just one time. Because after one time, and maybe nobody knows about it, or maybe one other person, it's like, well, maybe another, and another. And then the 3rd one is, no one will know. That's a lie, because number 1, you'll know, and you'll have shame. God knows, or 2. And if it's anything besides this computer screen, it's 3 people. And before long, more will know. And the hurt and the shame that you have, there's collateral. Don't believe the lies. The last one here is keep your home clean. Now, I know there's neat freaks that want to use this point for other applications. Let's stick with purity, okay? All right? Your home, like really ask yourself before you turn something on, and I've had to do this, I don't know how many times where I've had to just like, there's resources out there for you to find out, is this something that we should watch? And tell your kids, especially parents, we're going to check and see, is this something you should watch? That we should watch? It's really important. Set an example for this. Because, and I'm speaking especially to fathers and for the leaders of the home, if you open a door and you think it's just you that you're going to impact, you are wrong. You are not just impacting your eyes and your mind and your heart. You have now opened your home to a spirit of lust. And your kids will have to walk through that and struggle with it as well. So keep your home clean. Now, Jesus calls us to next level purity because God operates in covenant. Covenant. And adultery destroys covenant, but adultery doesn't just happen. One of the things that I've heard before, and it's a big lie, is it just happened. It just happened. Like, how did we get here? Well, it just happened. No. No one in history of the world was just walking along someday, tripped, and fell into bed with somebody else. That doesn't happen. So if somebody says that, please stop them and say, not true. That has never happened. Here's an important point. Purity, or brokenness, shattered purity, adultery, it is a series of choices. Choice, 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 choice. Oh man, now I know where I'm at. And here's a very, and I heard this shared recently, and I listen and read different things, and I wasn't quite sure, so I know this was a general idea, but it's a good one. You can pick your choices, but you can't pick your consequences. And this is the truth. This is what the world doesn't want you to know. You can pick your choices. You can pick what you watch. You can pick who you talk to. You can make all those choices. Who you text, who you talk to, what you watch, what you stream. But you cannot pick the consequences. And we often underestimate how hard those consequences will be. So I was thinking about the response and just how to wrap this up, because it's hard stuff, important stuff. I was thinking about a song that is one of my favorite songs, and there's a country music artist named Josh Turner who is a Christian. He has a whole album that's a gospel album, and it's a lot of great music. And he has this song that has always been very dear to my heart, and it's called Long Black Train. And before you put it up, he was a 19-year-old student at Belmont University in Nashville, Tennessee. And I didn't know this until I was doing research. I just listened to the song and really enjoyed it. As a 19-year-old student, he was walking through like 11 o'clock at night, going back to his dorm, and it was really dark out. And he said God gave him a vision of this long black train in the middle of nowhere. And he said that's when he wrote this song. And I'm just going to share with you, and I encourage you to listen to it, look at it, the lyrics later on for the whole song. But the whole song, Long Black Train, is a metaphor for sin. This is the last verse, and then in a second I'll give you the chorus. It says, bring it up, well, I can hear the whistle from a mile away. It sounds so good, but I must stay away. That train is a beauty making everybody stare, but its only destination is the middle of nowhere. And yes, this does sum up sin so well. Looks so good, sounds so good, but the destination is the middle of nowhere. For you here today, some of you may find yourself just in the early stages of looking at the train, maybe grabbing onto that handle and maybe pull yourself up on the train. And this is a wake-up call, and I'm happy for that. For others, you are on this train somehow, some way. There's things you're watching, there's things you're starting to dabble in relationally, and you realize it's time to get off right now. For others, you find yourself on the other side of consequences. Or maybe somebody has taken you to the middle of nowhere. Wherever you are, we have an answer in Jesus Christ. He is our healer. He is the one who reconciles. He's the one who delivers. He's the one who cleanses us. And the chorus I love because it does sum up the answer. It says, but you know there's victory in the Lord, I say, victory in the Lord. Cling to the Father and his holy name, and don't go riding on that long black train. The path to get off the train of sin is humility and confession. And at times, I believe, transparency. Because that no one will know thing will bury you in shame. The wrong answer is pride and secrets. The enemy wants you to think, you're okay, this isn't you, nobody's going to know, just keep on going. I implore you, take the path of humility and confession. and trust that Jesus will take you to a place of healing and take you from nowhere to someone really, really good. Bow your heads with me just for a moment. First, if you're here today and you find yourself in a place of brokenness, not maybe with regard to purity or maybe just in general, and you find yourself in the middle of nowhere and you're ready for a path of purpose, you're ready for a relationship with God, and the path through that, whether it's your first time committing to Jesus or you're recommitting, is to surrender, is to say, I can't do this on my own. I don't want to anymore. So if that's you, if you would agree with this prayer, Jesus, I believe you are the Son of God. I believe you died on the cross for my sins, and I believe you rose again so that I might have purpose and freedom and eternal life. I want to walk with you in freedom. If you're agreeing with this prayer for the first time or the first time in a long time, just slip up your hand right now and say, that's me. Yes. Yes. Right. And right now, with such a heavy message that we needed to walk through this stuff together, but you're here and you desperately need freedom from shame, or you have someone in your life that needs freedom, just slip up your hand and say, I just need freedom. In the name of Jesus, lots of hands. Yes, yes, yes. Lord, I pray for freedom. Set people free once and for all. From this point forward, through the power of your Holy Spirit, through the power of your word, through the power of your community, let them know that they are no longer walking alone. In Jesus' name, amen. This time, I just want you to know that we have a prayer room, and it's confidential. If you want to go, and as we're worshiping, just slip out. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Okay? It's more important that you get some time to pray with someone. Maybe you're stepping in to pray for someone else. All right? So it's on my left and on your right. You slip through those doors, you'll see a prayer partner there to pray with you. I encourage you to take that step. If you will stand, we want to take time and let's worship together.